Listen to this episode if you want to know the traits that the most successful product-based founders kind of embody in order to get to where they are in their business. Here at the Small Business Growth Podcast, I talk a lot of strategy. Me personally, if you know me, my brain is very strategic. However, the mindset side is also incredibly important. And it's not just this foo-foo mindset. What we're talking about is the routines, the habits, the feelings, the fears, and how they handle the actual mindset side of running a business. That is what we're talking about today. I'm really excited to dive into this topic because this is something I don't talk about often. And what we did is I did a bunch of research on some of the fastest growing brands in the last 5 to 10 years in the product-based business consumer brand space. And then I did some research on the founders and then basically looked at what their traits were and the things that they said that they relentlessly do. And we distilled it down into the most common traits that these business owners have in order to get them to where they are. The things that they swear by, the things that they really pay attention to, the things that they try not to pay attention to. And that is what we are talking about here today. I often say that business is going to be one of the biggest personal growth journeys you ever go on because it's going to bring out all of your fears, all of your insecurities because you are taking big risks in your business. There are so many pieces that are mindset that we don't want you to become the lid of your business, meaning your business can only grow to the capacity that you can actually hold because oftentimes it is our mindset that's actually holding us back. I had a conversation with one of my clients yesterday who said, Maddie, I didn't realize that now that I've invested in all of this knowledge that I am actually the one holding myself back. I am the one that's feeling like I don't want to show up on camera. I am the one that's feeling like I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that because of rejection or fears or judgment or all of these things that are popping up. And that gave me the opportunity to film this episode, kind of this idea. And what I'm excited about is we're going to go through the traits, we're going to go through what it means for you, and then I am going to give you examples of a brand that utilizes these traits and a brand founder and their story of how they embody this trait so you can also embody it too. Before we dive in, I just want to take 10 quick seconds to introduce myself for anybody that's new here. Hello, my name is Madison Page. I'm the host of the Small Business Growth Podcast. Here we teach you how to turn your small business into a brand that lasts so you can become that next major household name inside of your industry. I like to teach in a fun conversational type of way. I like to say it's kind of like sipping coffee with a biz bestie where we are sitting across from each other, sipping coffees and sharing raw and real and genuine business growth advice. I'm so excited to dive into this today. What we're talking about is really a whole list of traits that you need to embody as a founder to become the most successful. Now, I have the privilege of working with successful founders every single day, people that are really trying to make a mark in their industry. And before I did some of this research, I basically sat down and said, all right, what do I think my clients' traits are that are the most successful, as well as what does the research say that these people need in order to be the most successful? And I kind of put them all into one. And then I found different examples of founder stories for each of the traits. So we have probably close to 10 different traits here that we're going to dive into. This is going to be a fun kind of storytelling style of episode. So first things first for us to dive into here is the first trait that successful founders have is that they obsess over the details. And this is something that I have seen inside of many of my clients' businesses as well, whether it be the product, making sure the product is so good, their branding, the tiniest little details, their packaging, the smallest little details, making small little things branded. There are so many pieces of business that we can kind of breeze over. However, the ones that are successful obsess over the details, but also know when to move on. Also know when it's time to look into that next step. Also know that they're not going to let the details hold them back from taking action. Now, there are so many stories out there of people that took years to produce their product, people that really intentionally built the small little pieces and intricate details of their brand. I have clients that their packaging packaging is just immaculate because they want the customer experience from top to bottom to be cohesive, to be curated, and to be that level that they are really looking for. A great example of this is Truff. If you don't know Truff, they make kind of a high-end luxury sauces. A lot of it where they started off with hot sauce. They didn't just build a luxury hot sauce that was delicious. They did do that, but they actually crafted a luxury brand in a market that didn't really have this. So they had to mentally go through this process of, do people really want luxury sauces, or are they okay buying Hidden Valley Ranch, or do they want actually this luxury branded sauce? They crafted this luxury brand. The founder is Nick Ajluni and Nick Gillian. They spent months obsessing over tiny little things. I listened to an episode with these guys before, and they obsessed over the box texture, the typography, like their font that they chose in their branding, their bottle shape, the like bottle weight that it had. They obsessed over the little details, and especially in the luxury experience, in the luxury industry, the details are what matters, because your customers, if they're spending double on a bottle of sauce, they need to feel like it is a luxury experience to purchase it. And they knew that. And now their iconic matte black and gold finish bottle, it looks like it belongs as like a true perfume or luxury fragrance company, but it really is on a grocery store shelf as a sauce brand, especially in like the CPG, consumer packaged goods, where you're going to try to go wholesale. Your packaging matters because your packaging is the only first impression that people have. And so when people are wanting to be in wholesale, we have to obsess over those little details. Do you want to just do the same packaging as everybody else in your industry? Your branding, how can we really fine tune it with like the teeny tiniest of details? The packaging, the most successful people care about the details. They care about the shade of green that is on the boxes. They care about those tiny little things, and they weren't afraid to invest in them. And I think that's a big piece here, is especially in the beginning of kind of like a startup, many people are like, eventually I want to do this. But what a lot of these brands did, they started investing in those details from day one. So they invested in the higher end packaging. They invested in the storytelling, the aesthetic, the photo shoots, those different pieces, because they knew those details in saturated industries is what is going to set you apart from everybody else. Everybody's over here doing this thing, or a lot of startups are kind of doing these different pieces. No, these startups decided that they were going to do it legit, and they were going to care about the details from the very beginning. And they weren't afraid to invest in that because they knew it would make them look more professional, and it would stand out on shelves, and it would get their audience more engaged throughout that whole process, because they wanted the perception of this Truff brand to be this luxury experience. And they talk about kind of emulating the luxury perfume industry so they can see that they can have a higher price point on it, so that they can have a brand and like an experience that really fit the actual price point that they wanted. This obsession over details made them able to charge $17 for a hot sauce that you can buy a similar product for $3 right next to it if they wanted to. And now this brand is worth millions. The major takeaway here is that founders who are willing to get their hands and their brain into the details really are the ones that win. They're the ones that last, because what they're doing is they are making their own ecosystem, and knowing that everything to a T is branded, and that it's just something that their audience is going to be like, that was a cool little touch. Whether people notice it or not, those little touches make a really big difference. So don't rush past the little things. They're often the big things. Even in your packaging, having a little bit more of an elevated insert into your package. We don't just want to do what everybody else is doing. If you can really separate yourself and invest in these little details, it's going to matter, because it's what is memorable. Think about that last time that you picked up something in the store and the packaging had some cute little sayings on it, or you ordered something from a brand and the packaging was just beautiful. The box had something printed on it, or they gave you little affirmation cards as like a little bonus. Those are all of those little details that end up making a really big difference, because it builds your brand so incredibly strong from day one. So first trait is that they obsess over the details. And this is something I see with my clients all of the time. The next one is that they have unshakable discipline and structure. I think one of the hardest things to do as a business owner, especially when you're full time, but even when you have a really busy schedule, is to actually create and manage your own time and your own schedule, because we have so many things going on. And especially when you're full time, like it literally is, you can wake up and go to bed, and everything in between, you can work if you want to, depending on your kids, depending on your life, depending on your spouse, whatever that kind of looks like. But all of these businesses realized that they needed unshakable discipline and structure in order to have these big goals like they really wanted. And that's something that I do want to just mention here. We're talking about having big goals in this episode. We're talking about really wanting to achieve kind of the things that people aren't willing to always go the lengths to achieve. And I know that that's you, because you're here. You have big goals. These people all have multi-million-dollar businesses at this point because they were willing to do these things that not everybody is able to do. And that is what we're talking about. The average person is not willing to have the discipline and the structure and the organization that it actually takes in order to be successful in business. But these people, these types of founders did. This is organization, it's routines, it's keeping on showing up even when you don't want to. And it's also being resilient when things just aren't working. It's that resiliency and that discipline to keep on trying because they see the mission, because they see the direction, because they see the vision. Now, because you're in my world, you know that this does not mean to push all of your personal things to the side and never give yourself any time on the outside. That is not what I'm saying here. It just means to have the audacity to keep on showing up. Whether that means you have to take weekends off every once in a while to just like hang out and enjoy and to recharge, that's okay. Today's Friday. I'm taking the weekend off of my business. That doesn't mean that I'm not disciplined and I'm not structured. It means that I still Monday morning am going to come back and be at it with my structure, be organized, know what I'm doing throughout the week. So this founder is Bloom Nutrition. I love Mari Llewellyn. She's wonderful. I have followed her literally for well over a decade. It's kind of crazy. I love her podcast. She started Bloom Nutrition. She's been very open and honest about losing 90 pounds, using her kind of story to transform her health, build a fitness audience, and then built a brand around it. But she's also been very open and honest about talking about how there was many years of her and her now husband's life that they didn't have friends. They barely left the house, and they knew they had to be so on it and so committed and so disciplined with their business in order to get to the point that they really wanted to get at. Now, she's also been honest about how unhealthy it was and how she probably couldn't go back into it. However, knowing that fine balance, her and her husband are still showing up. They're still showing up often. Now, there's of course different ebbs and flows. Once you get to a certain point in your business, you can pull back a little bit or you can keep on pushing. And so it really depends on where you want to be. But in the building phase, it takes organization, it takes time management, and it takes discipline and structure to know that you can kind of keep on showing up. She built her brand from clean routines, boundaries, tracking, intentionality, and they knew exactly kind of what they were doing. They had this organization behind the scenes, and that same structure is still what runs their multi-million-dollar company now. And they've grown and they've adapted. And of course, this can be a very toxic trait as well. So we do need to find that balance, quote unquote, or that harmony between the personal and the professional. But that doesn't mean that you need to work 100 hours a week. It means that you need to be structured with your work time. So like for me, I work 9 to 5 pretty much every day, Monday through Friday. There are some days that I don't do that because something pops up or, whatever. My hormones are so out of whack. If you're new here, I have PMDD, and there's just some days that it's just not going to happen for me. And I know I'm not going to be as productive. And so there's different pieces here that doesn't mean that you aren't disciplined, but what happens is that you have to keep showing up. You have to still have boundaries, have structure, and be able to kind of manage your time well. Your schedule should reflect the future that you want to have. If you want these big results, you need systems that support you. You need to keep on showing up. You need to understand that consistency and that discipline is going to happen. Everybody in business has days, has weeks, has months that they just like really aren't feeling it. All right. Like there's sometimes you're down, things have got you down and you just can't really push through it. We aren't talking about running yourself into the ground here. We are talking about really setting a foundation that allows for you to keep on showing up and that is supportive for you and your brain and your life and how it really works for you. And these founders have a lot of evidence of understanding that they have to be disciplined and keep on showing up. Hey, I'm jumping in here for 30 quick seconds for those of you listening and thinking, all right, but how do I actually apply this to my business? Every week here, I share strategies, case studies, growth mistakes to avoid, but your business growth is nuanced. So your business support has to be nuanced as well. That's why all of my support includes me inside of your business, your ideas, your launches, your content, perfecting what you're already building and uncovering your hidden opportunities to scale. This isn't a cookie cutter course. It's a high level personalized support system to help you optimize your brand, your strategy, and every single person your business touches. If you want my eyes and my brain on your branding, your sales, your marketing, and your overall growth plan, click the link in the show notes to apply. Let's see what we can build together. The next one is a really important one, is that they understand the power of saying no and staying in alignment. There's a lot of evidence of this. At a certain point in your business, you will have things thrown at you all of the time. Opportunities to be in PR, opportunities to be bought out. I have clients that get investment opportunities where people are asking to invest in their business all the time. If they aren't aligned to it and it's not something that they actually want, they're constantly having to say no to people. So knowing that at a certain point, you have to guard your brand, even if it can make you more money, doesn't mean you have to take it. You have to know what is within the alignment that you want to have and not just have this shiny object syndrome to say yes to everything. Because at a certain point, there's a lot of people that are going to come at you with ideas, with thoughts, with advice and feedback that you can also say, no, I don't take that feedback. No, I don't want your investment. No, I don't want some of these things. And so the most successful people understand the power of saying no and staying within alignment to their vision. And a good example of this is Vacation Inc. If you haven't looked at Vacation Inc.'s brand, it is beautiful. It's a sunscreen company, and they have built their entire identity around this like 80s beach vibe. Now, if you think of sunscreen and the brands that they have, Vacation Inc. has a very different brand. And the founder of their brand has been out there saying that they had investors tell them that they needed to be more of that clean girl aesthetic. They needed to be more wellness focused. They needed their branding to be different than what their vision was behind their brand. Kind of this retro fonts, cheesy radio style jingles, ironic perfume style ads, different things like that, that people was just different than what was happening in the industry. They had advisors, they had collaborators, they had investors, they had all of these people that didn't see this vision as something that was going to propel them forward. They saw it as something that was outdated, and they were told in the early stages of their business that they should change their branding, that their branding wasn't on par to what the consumers really want, but they kept their vision. They held the alignment. They said no to a lot of people that wanted to invest if they made it more wellness focused, if they made it more clean girl aesthetic. They didn't jump on that trend. They didn't jump on that feedback because they were able to see their own vision and keep on going from there. They didn't chase the Sephora deals that they were told that they would have if they did this. They had people coming to them saying, hey, we can get you into Sephora if you make these changes. And they said, you know what? No, because I don't want to make those changes. And so another thing that these people do is they really harness what their vision is and really try to stay within alignment of that and understand that power of saying no. There's a lot of examples of this out there. Your brand should feel like a world, and you have to be able to really hold on to that, because there's going to be so many people trying to give you advice and opinions and different things out there, and saying no to anything that doesn't belong in that world of your brand is going to be incredibly important. This is also a great example of being really in tune with the details of your brand. Like we've already talked about, they were relentless about creating a differentiator based on branding. There's a lot of different sunscreen companies out there, and there was none of them that really had like this standout brand that was very different, and they really wanted to do it, and they obsessed over those details, and they said no to anything that didn't fit within those details. The next one is rejection doesn't stop them. And I know we hear this, rejection is just redirection, but there's a lot of these people in business that will tell you the more no's you get, the better it actually is. I think a great perspective here is understanding if you were 5 no's away from your biggest yes of your business, how quickly would you act? Because in business, there's going to be so much rejection, whether it's an investor, whether it's a pitch, you're trying to get into wholesale, you're trying to work with influencers, you're trying to do so many things, and people are going to tell you no over and over and over again. Rejection is going to happen and it's bound to happen, but these people don't see it as rejection. They see it as another means to just keep on trying, keep on going. And I tell my clients this a lot when they are doing PR pitches or they're trying to get into stores or they're having meetings with Anthropology or Target or all of these people that are telling them no. It's like, yeah, a lot of brands out there got told no for years before they got told yes. And now they're in Anthropologies all around the country, all around the world. You know, it does just take one major yes. And it is a numbers game at a certain point. And so if you can think about it, like if, okay, I need to reach out to 100 people. And if there's a 1% conversion rate on pitches, that means every 100 people, I will hopefully get one yes, which means I just have to get 99 more no's until my next yes. And that's what really matters. And that is exactly what a lot of these founders do. They realize that they needed to get more no's and be okay with rejection in order to get there. And this is something that a lot of people are afraid of, is rejection. So we got to get some of that exposure therapy out there. The founder here that I want to talk about is Deux. They make like healthy edible cookie dough. And she was basically Sabina Ladha. She basically was like laughed off of Shark Tank. She literally was laughed off of Shark Tank and the set of Shark Tank for having like healthy cookie dough. Everybody told them, haha, this is weird. Who wants to eat healthy cookie dough? I don't think anybody would want to do that. And you know what she did is she turned that moment into a viral moment. So they all said no, she didn't get a deal on Shark Tank, but it was aired. And she used that as redirection and as a viral moment, as a way to get PR and use the D2C momentum. And she now has raised over $8 million to help her fund her business. She used this rejection as content and as like almost a momentum shift. She saw that there was still opportunity in this rejection. And now I'm sure all of those Shark Tank people out there are bummed that they didn't invest in her because she has a multi-million-dollar company. You just will be told no is the major takeaway here. You will get no's all the time. I have pitched many people that I get no's to, and it doesn't even impact me anymore because that's fine. If you don't want to work with me, that's not my fault. Like that is, if you don't want to do this, if you don't want to do that, that's okay. You know, the worst thing that can happen is somebody say no, somebody says your idea is stupid, and you just have to be very rooted in your vision, in your mission, and what it is you moving forward. If you were 5 no's away from the biggest yes of your life, would more no's still hurt? How many more times would you actually pitch? Because that's really the reality of it. You have to get more no's and be okay with it. And a lot of founders talk about this, whether they were not accepted into Sephora or Target or Anthropology, or investors told them it was a silly idea. So many different no's can happen in the world of business. You just have to be able to see, how can I keep on getting more and more no's and not let it come to heart? Because these people might not see your vision, and that's okay. The right people will. The next one is that they are obsessive learners. They consistently want to keep on bettering themselves. And I think the perfect founder here is Mark Cuban. He is famously known for reading for 3 hours a day. He talks about it a lot. He talks about it in a lot of podcasts. He is relentless about keeping on learning. And what he says is, the more I learn, the more I understand how little I know, whether it's about sports, startups, or investing. He says he is constantly stacking knowledge that gives him that competitive edge. And there are a lot of, top 1%ers that talk about how they consistently learn. Warren Buffett was also somebody that said this. Emma Grede, who is the business brain behind Skims and Good American. All of these people are obsessed with learning. Why? They understand that they don't know everything. And the more that they can learn and absorb and realize that they don't know everything, the more it keeps them grounded and the more it keeps propelling them forward. I listened to a podcast episode the other day with Mark Cuban, and he said what he has been spending almost all of his day on is AI right now. He says he has people that he has hired just to help him learn AI. He said that he knows that in order for him to keep on growing and to keep on working, he is fully adapting into AI, and he knows he has to play with it all day, every day. And it's something that a lot of people are like adverse to actually trying to learn right now because they don't want to learn something new. It feels too complex. And he said those people are going to get left behind. You have to be obsessed with learning because everything is forever changing. Look at the SEO world, social media, algorithms, the technology of the world. Things are constantly changing. And if you feel like you stop learning, you really do stop growing because it means you are plateaued at where you're at. And there is a lot of evidence around these people that are really successful being obsessed with learning, curious around people's perspectives, and not willing to just cap themselves where they are. We have a couple of more. The next one is that they protect their energy. This is something that I do incredibly relentlessly. There's a lot of things here that, of course, there's going to be things that are stressful. Of course, there's going to be things in life that we cannot allow to come in, that we cannot, we can't move past. That's just going to happen. It's an inevitable in our life. But we do have to understand how we can protect our brain. As a business owner, as a founder, your time, your energy, your efforts matter so incredibly much. We have to learn how to protect our energy and make us the most productive version of ourselves. This is something that I do, and I talk about it a little bit on my Instagram, is I have really changed around my morning routine because I realized the morning routine I was doing was actually just draining energy as opposed to really setting me up for the day. I would wake up and I would be incredibly rigid. I would have all of these structures. I would work out. I wouldn't give myself any moment of stillness. And I would basically just jump right into work. And my nervous system was already so like, woo, from being up and at it all day, all morning, that I knew I had to start making my mornings slower, more intentional, so it would actually help me in the future feel better. It would help me throughout my day be more productive, get more done. And that was me protecting my energy. And now I can see that I get more done throughout my day. I'm more productive. I'm more steady and grounded in decision making because I was able to protect my energy in that morning routine. There's a lot of things that you can do here. Boundaries. Don't answer any phone calls between 9 to 5 that don't have anything to do with your business. There's a lot of different ways we can protect our energy. But a great founder, Emma Grede, love her. Her podcast Aspire is awesome. She is the business brain behind all of the Kardashian brands. So Good American, Skims, things like that. And she is famous for her boundaries. She says she protects her calendar like a CEO needs to do it. She says that a lot on her podcast. She says no to unnecessary meetings. She delegates, and she always says, I just know I'm not going to be the PTO mom because I can't do that. Even though I can feel guilt around it sometimes, it is just not something that I can do. It's something that I had to give up because it's just not where my energy can go. She doesn't just run one brand, she runs several. And she knows that her brain has to be optimized and like really working at the top tier that it can be in order to balance it all, as many of us business founders do. And so you can't just allow for your body and your energy and everything to be seeping out of all areas. We need our energy to be protected. Now, of course, again, there's going to be unavoidable things, but we have to be able to, do what really makes sense for us in some of these categories as well. We have to know that as a business owner, our energy is really, really important. And right now, even again, personally, it's kind of like a personal side of this. I'm planning a wedding. I'm trying to buy a house. We have so many things going on that right now I'm doing more than ever to try to protect my energy because I have a lot of things going out. I have a lot of different energy happening in a lot of different areas. And so I've had to do that even more so my business outcomes maintain and still grow from there. The next one is that they can almost build an apathy towards fear. This is something that a lot of my clients that are super successful, 100K months, 250K months, like some of my most successful clients have asked me if this is normal, that like they're adverse to fear at this point. They see fear and they're kind of like, well, it is what it is. They have a really big launch going on or they have a collaboration. They can feel it, but they still let it happen. They don't let it cripple them. And this is something that every single founder that has been on this list will be able to say to you. This is something that every single founder that you talk to will say that they have done. Fear is a part of growth and your achievements, and you have to be able to feel it and do it anyway. If you want to achieve things that not everybody achieves, we have to be able to really understand this level and side of fear. It's really, really important. Knowing that that fear is always going to be there. We are going to do things that are so scary beyond belief. However, we also have to understand that we have to do it anyway. Because if we want to achieve things that the average person is not going to achieve, we have to push through things that the average person is not willing to push through as well. And fear is always going to be there. Last but not least is they don't try to do it alone. They realize that they are not the smartest person in every room. And honestly, they don't want to be. They know that they are a collection of the people that they spend their time with the most, and that they need to harness the people that are in their corner to really help them propel them forward and not hold them back. They know that those people around them impact everything that they have, and they know that they can't do it alone, and they hire accordingly. They get in the rooms accordingly. They have people on their team accordingly. Founders who succeed fast realize that they don't know everything and that they are not the best at everything, and they shouldn't try to know everything. They hire strategic advisors, mentors, experts, specialists to come in and handle things, see things that they cannot see, and to provide feedback to their blind spots so they can scale faster, so they can make decisions with confidence, because one person cannot hold it all, know it all, or do it all. They aren't just hiring team members, they're building this trust. They're building this like community of people that are there to support them, kind of like this support network. There's a lot of evidence here. 70% of the successful founders, successful startups have some sort of advisor in the early stages of their business. Drybar, she brought in her brother and her husband that have past experience. Poppi brought in a strategic advisor and investor really early on. Hims and Hers has a team of advisors before they even launched. Brightland had a strategic advisor pre-launch to make sure that they could get out there. Deux, she brought in an advisor early on in order she could get there as well. And there's a lot of evidence around this. Disney, Microsoft, is the people that win don't try to do it alone because they know they don't have the time, the energy, or the knowledge to see everything. And that's something even in my business that is really important, is that you have to understand that we all have blind spots and that we can't always know everything. We can't always see them because we are too in it. You don't know everything, so you have to surround yourself with people so you can have a good zoomed out and zoomed in approach at everything in your business. So when we go back and we look at some of these traits, we are talking about obsessing over the details, having unshakable discipline and structure, and strong control over your calendar. They understand the power of saying no and staying in alignment with their vision and trusting themselves. Rejection is not something that stops them. They're obsessed with learning and growing and keeping on building because they know if they're not learning, they're not growing. They protect their energy, knowing that as a business owner, their energy and their routines and their hobbies and their habits really, really matter. They build an apathy towards fear, and they don't try to do it alone. Business will challenge you personally, professionally, every different way. But if you can start embodying these beliefs, it is a way that you will be able to get through that personal growth side of things. When I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to podcasts to understand how they operate. I'm not really listening to them to really learn, like implement right away. I am listening to get their perspective, and I'm there listening to try to see what are the ways that they operate in their habits and their routines, because that is what I'm most interested in, because I know that in order to be that level of successful, you need to operate at a different level. You need to operate at a higher vibration than the normal person. And so when we really look at these characteristics and these traits, take this as an opportunity to step up. I want you to pick one of these to really work on. And a lot of these are easier said than done, but we need to start embodying this in order to feel it quicker, in order to feel it and see the results from it sooner. We have to see the fear, do it anyway. We need people in our corner that we can't actually see those blind spots. We need to be able to kind of just like allow for a neutrality around rejection, around fear, around negativity. Because again, I think the best reframe from a perspective here is if you want to achieve things that the average person does not achieve, you have to be willing to do things that the average person is not willing to do. And that is what we're talking about here. The average person is not willing to push through fear. The average person is not willing to push through rejection. The average person is not willing to have structure and discipline every single day or when they can. So the average person is not willing to protect their energy at the level that CEOs and multi-seven-figure business owners have to. But in order to achieve those goals, we have to be able to do it. We aren't trying to be average. If you're here and you're listening to this, you're trying to be great. You're trying to be the next industry leader. You're trying to be the next household name. And if that is you, we have to start embodying and applying different systems inside of this. The mindset side is something that I work on in my business. I work on with my clients, because a lot of my clients are like, I know you're not a therapist, but we have to be a level of mindset here. We have to tackle some of these mindset beliefs because we know it's holding you back. You know right now that some of those fears that you feel deeply rooted are holding you back, whether it is conscious or subconscious. We all have different programming that is allowing us to either not take action or taking action in the wrong ways because of some of these pieces that we're talking about today. I hope this was helpful for you. I love this style of kind of like case studies, different examples, and I really want to hear what your major takeaway was. Please join our Small Business Cafe, which is our completely free podcast community. We're going to be having a conversation there about where people feel like they are holding themselves back and kind of starting deeper into this conversation with other podcast listeners. Would love to have you. The link is in the show notes below. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always, and I cannot wait to hear how you take some of these mindset pieces and really run with it. If you found today's episode helpful and are looking for more tangible ways to grow your business, make sure you are subscribed to the show. If you want to dive deeper into this topic more, click the link in the show notes and join our completely free podcast community where we dive into every single podcast topic, as well as give some bonus support and free coaching calls. And finally, if you are interested in getting my eyes on your business to find your hidden opportunities to scale, apply to work with me one-on-one in the show notes or on our website. Remember, it's not enough to listen. Don't forget to implement too. I love ya. I'll see you in the next episode.